Hello, and you're on the... I blew it. You're on the road less traveled with Gary L., Gigi's Boo, a whole host of chatters at reallibertymedia.com. And we're happy to be here on this 27th day of August, 2017. Hello, Gigi's Boo. How are you?
I'm doing fairly well. How about you?
No, every day's a holiday. Every meal's a feast. Yeah. So what's happening? Everything's just crazy, you know?
It sure is. It sure is. Crazy. But we got it together for the night. We're gonna have a pretty good show tonight.
As Ed Sullivan would say, a really big show.
Really big show. Gary's got it titled something else, and I've got it titled Touches of the South.
Yeah, you know, whatever. We just make it up as we go along. That's
right.
That's all right. That's what live radio is about. Just make it up as you go along. And of course, I have to admit that the archives are a little bit edited, mostly just to remove
Booze, ticking and tacking,
and lip smacks and pops and long pauses, which I'm very guilty of. I don't know. It just takes me a while to formulate a thought sometimes. So it's just it is what it is. That's why we're not in the mainstream. You see, we just make it up and we do it as we do it. But Gigi's Boo has picked out some things, and we decided, you know, I think it's good that we touch on important issues, but sometimes we get a little bit negative, I'm afraid. And you know, when you're trying to reflect the environment as you're in it, occasionally comes across as negative because for the most part it seems to be. But that doesn't mean that we can't reach out and find positive things to talk about. Some of those things might revolve around times gone by. And I think what Gigi's Boo is going to discuss tonight are some of those things. And it's important to remember, just because something happened in the past does not mean it's completely impossible to do again.
Exactly.
And it's all a matter of perspective, you see. Anyway, so what's going on in the chat room? It's
good to see the crowd in here tonight.
Yeah, and a bunch of them talking too. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
I like that little feature on KVIRC is that it highlights those who have said something in the last few minutes. A little bar to the left of the name, if you'll notice that, Gigi's Boo. And, you know, the people in here, I'm talking about Grimnir, reallibertymedia.com, and the chat room. If you're listening to this, if you are, I don't know if you are or not. But if you're listening to this live, there is a chat room, and I highly encourage you to come into it so we can say hello, for one thing. And we can also perhaps benefit from your point of view on some of these things. We don't claim to know everything, and I don't think anyone in this chat room would make that claim. However, as a group, we can know a whole lot of things.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that's you leverage one another's strengths and minimize the weaknesses, and that's really what's one of the most important things to remember in life, actually. Well, we have, of course, Grimnir, Moose Girl, and Kate, and Asmo, and Beth C., and Chalstony, and Chloe, and Nibidon C., and Java Doctor, and Meister Brow, RLM Fluke, which is another, and that's Barman's best buddy. You know, he got him a roommate. Anyway, got Rob Works, and Trust No One, Vinny, and Beetle, and Behind a Woodshed, and Ben Chicken, and BTC, Bob, Colfax, Dima, Frumpy, Gigi's Boo. And we have a guest. Hello, guest, 57209. Please feel free to say hello and introduce yourself if you like. We have Jehovah, Wanatako, Kozu, Moe, Poxified, Pond Sauce, Rain Sock Puppet, Tip Bob, and the Phantom. And I notice every week there are new folks well, new names, and whether they're actually new folks or not, or our typical NSA, FBI, CIA, DEA house monitors. I don't know. But that's okay. They're welcome too, actually. They actually might learn something if they open their minds. Open your mind. Had to do it myself. It's not a pleasant process. However, it is one that gets you a lot of mileage in the long run. So, the bubbler's been fired up. Okay.
Sid, is it wine or water?
Yeah. Yep. There's quite a lag today, actually. I noticed it earlier, anywhere from 45 seconds to a minute and 15, I think.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's lagging. And I guess it takes a while for it to make, these guys need to make up their minds, how they want to intercept all this information. I mean, everybody can't take a piece of it. By the time everybody gets done recording and extracting and doing what they're doing, there's not going to be anything left for anybody to listen to. Guys, come on, wake up. You're too obvious. If you do what is that? A trace route. Yeah. I mean, Hal and I were playing with that some time back. You do a trace route, and it's interesting to see all the hops and all the different bizarre places that a internet connection actually goes. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, you think like Colorado and Washington, D.C., and all these places where government installations exist and all this stuff goes. But like I said, please listen and learn something. What you don't get is that we are in a very transformational stage. We are right there. Things are going to be very different within the next year, 2, 3 at the outside. Hal pointed out something important, very important, extremely important today, that there's something afoot. And he made references to how people were acting strangely, if you will, with respect to the most recent eclipse. And we see things in the environment are very different, changing. Of course, you have the climate extremes. You notice I didn't say change. The extremes, there are all sorts of things going on. And I think many of us sense something we're right on the cusp of something. Not sure what it is.
By the end of September. Yeah,
and I don't know if you want to touch on that or not.
I might, if I have time.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do it now?
Yeah, go ahead. Now let's talk about that. Go ahead.
Okay, our holy man, our calendar runs on the moons. We do the old calendar, like the Jewish calendar, sundown to sundown. And our holy man has told us to be on the lookout. He's not saying the end of the world's coming or whatever's going to happen, bad. He's not predicting what it'll be. But this is for this whole year now. Virgo has been has held Jupiter in her belly. And when Jupiter is in the belly of Virgo, when it moves out, it's going to move out about the time that Rosh Hashanah takes place with the Jews. And he says he doesn't know exactly what's going to happen, but he does think something is going to happen. Catastrophic? He didn't say that. And he sure didn't say the end of the world was coming like they predicted with the Mayan calendar. But something is going to take place, something of very great importance. I like to say it this way, like my mother says it. There's rumblings already. Take the rumblings like you want to take it. Either the rumblings of the unrest, with the racial tension, or with politics, whatever. The rumbling is already there. So let's just wait and see. But they're saying by the end of September that we should see something. I kind of want to, I'm kind of anxious to see. And I don't know if any of you were in the path to see the actual eclipse, but it was not so prominent right where we live, but where my uncle had a friend. He took my nieces and those down with their children so they could get the full effect. And the effect, they said, was life-changing for them, because they actually saw it, and they said for 2 minutes and 38 seconds, the world was not worried about race, the politics, Black Lives Matter, the Nazis, the white supremacists, nothing. Just for those 2 minutes and 38 seconds, all eyes were looking upward to something that happens very rarely. We have a lot of solar eclipse, but it's been so very rare where we've had a full one that we could see here. It's been unbelievable. We watched it on TV here because we didn't get to see we followed everybody where they were to see it. We saw it start in Oregon and come across. And I found it just totally amazing. When it got here, it darkened, not exactly what I would say twilight, but sunset. And what was so funny, all of a sudden, the birds stopped singing and the tree frogs started. And you didn't see any animals move. And then all of a sudden, when it started getting brighter, the tree frog stopped. I saw a soaring bird come down, and then I saw squirrels scamper. And it was remarkable. It really did something to everybody that got to see it. That got to see it. It was just great. It really was. So that's something to look at, to be watching for. Somebody said something in the chat room, I think. Yeah, it is for the Jews. It's Rosh Hashanah, and it's the 7th blood moons and stuff like that. 7 blood moons. They predicted that, but it's really something, yeah. But if you got a chance to see it, that was something wonderful to see. But do watch toward the end of this month. Just look up to the heavens, because, we're taught to look for signs and wonders. And I'm watching them heavens all the time for different things. And so is Gary. And Gary pays attention to nature too. So just keep your ear tuned. Somebody made a joke about an Indian told him, listen to nature. And the guy said, how do you hear nature? I'm in a town full of traffic. And the Indian was walking along. He said, be quiet, be quiet. And he said, don't you hear the cricket? And he said, there's no crickets here. And the Indian pointed and said, yeah, look in this potted tree right here. And there was a cricket. So it pays to listen with all your senses, your hearing, your touch, your smell, your vision, your heart. No, listen to it all. Okay, I've took enough time, Gary. You go.
No, that's good. A very good stream of consciousness there. And I think one of the big points that you made was the quiet, what do you call that? The quieting effect, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's really important. And it's important because we are always in such a frenetic environment that's filled with so many frequencies and wavelengths and vibrations and noises and blah, blah, blah. You have to quieten your soul. and you'll start to hear and see things differently. And I'm not sure. It's very hard to explain that. And I think
you're right.
I think the example you gave of the solitary cricket in the potted tree was a very good one, because 99.9% of the time we won't hear that.
Mm-mm.
Does that make it non-existent? No. Well, relatively, I guess, but the reality is that it is there, and it does have a song. And you're too busy doing other things to hear it.
That's right. That's exactly right. I got a real cute story to tell you real quick about one of my nieces. We teach them if they find a feather or something that you're supposed to leave a gift back. And especially we put a hair lot for the birds in the summer so they can have the hair to pad their nest. And we were walking along and my one niece found a beautiful redbird feather. And I said, now what are you supposed to do? She said, leave a gift, but I was going to leave that up to you. You pick out the gift. She wanted me to. I said, no. You found it. You got to leave a gift. So it means giving too. Even in the quiet times, giving something as simple as your brush, take it outside and drop the hair on the ground for the birds to make a nest.
Yeah, and that speaks well to the fact of the connectivity of all of us and of all things in reality. And, and I guess the thing that really clarifies it in my mind is when I hear people talk about all this. I think back to the origin of everything. And this is a little quantum physics-y, if you don't mind. But at one time, according to the latest belief system at any rate, we were all compressed into one very, very, very small point. Well, doesn't that mean that we're all connected, ultimately? Now, we may have been pushed apart by great forces and great distances, but that didn't change the connection, did it? And it kind of goes along with the concept of quantum entanglement. That we're all connected. And, we look back at all these different devices that are used to separate us and keep us distracted and keep us, our eye off the ball, so to speak, And one of the big things that's coming up, and unless it's rescheduled, it will be this upcoming Friday in Charlottesville, Virginia, will be the hearing for the statue removal business, which is a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. And you look at the law. The law is straightforward. Of course, the Attorney General comes up and says that, that really the law doesn't affect anything that was put in place prior to 1998. And my own personal reading of the recodification of the law does not support that conclusion, but I don't want to get into all that. But anyway, I'm happy I'll be going to that. I'll have the opportunity to be there because I really believe that the result, whichever way it goes, of that court case is going to be a ground zero event that's related to exactly to the things that we've been talking about. It's one piece of a much bigger puzzle. So, I guess, you have to be ready for whatever is coming. There are forces at work, and people I know, a lot of people don't like to hear that because they're very rationalists, I think. But there are forces at work of which we have a little understanding. We see the effects of it, We see throughout history similarities of effects, but these forces are at work, and we're just a little piece of that. Just a very minor piece. But having said that, we are connected. So it's kind of really hard to talk about. Do you have any expansion on that you can offer on that, Judy Spoo?
Of us all being together, making up the whole,
and the forces that are arrayed against us.
Oh, well, a lot of people don't like to hear me say it, but you can say whatever you want to. You can be atheist, agnostic, Christian, Buddhist, whatever. But you have to admit there's a higher power somewhere that's in charge of us. And there's several higher powers. One is greater than the other. Some are evil and some are good. And the evil, they don't come in quite so bad to begin with as evil, but they can destroy. And they love to keep turmoil stirred up. And with all this that's going on, Charlottesville, all over this country, I do believe it's evil forces coming. I think people make pacts with evil so they can get ahead in life. They can be better. Whatever. But I'm part of the universe. Gary's part of the universe. Hal, Graham, Javadar, Beetle, everybody in this room, we're one part of the universe. But if you take us and put us all together, we might not can do something by ourselves too much. But if you put us all together, we can make a change. And I think for this in Charlottesville and all over this country, to make a change is we're going to have to stand. And it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be nice, but we're going to have to stand and make that change. Now, do I think I know what it is? Personally, I do. I personally, in my heart, know what it is. I know what the change is going to be. They're trying to destroy the country that we have. And what was the man's name? Nikita Khrushchev. Yeah, thank you, Mother. He said you didn't have to whip the United States. You don't have to defeat her in war because she's going to fall under her own destruction. That's what you're seeing right now. That's exactly what you're seeing. You're going to see the United States fall. Think about it. About how long does a civilization last? A country, a civilization, a society? About 200 years. We're past that already. What's going to take place? Use your imagination. What's going to take place? We're going to have another revolution or another civil war. We're going to have a war. And it's going to pay to have Hal and Graham and Beetle and Gary and Brenna and everybody that we can get together to band together to take part in that. And I'm going to touch a little bit on somebody that took part of that during the Revolutionary War in a minute. But I told Gary so many times, he's wasted himself in a lot of ways. He should have been an attorney. He's smart as a whip. I sometimes sit and listen to him, and I'm thinking, my God, this is a man I love. I didn't realize he was so smart. Why in the world did he pick me? But he's really smart. He's going up to this thing, and he's going to keep us involved, and he's going to keep us informed. But get ready. You know that song that says, everybody get ready, there's a train a-coming. The train's coming, get ready. Get ready to get on board. Okay, Gary, take it away.
Okay, well, thank you for all that. I'm not sure I earn all that, but I appreciate the sentiment. And and this is what the important part in this thing for people to remember is this is important here to me because it's local and it's something I can involve myself with, and it has relevance locally. But there are things going on everywhere, and Hal talks about this. Things going on everywhere that we collectively can't involve ourselves with, but we each have to do it separately. And I'm not sure that's not coming across well, but it all goes back to that concept that we are ultimately one. But just like a body that has fingers and toes and eyes and ears, and it's a diversified organism. Well, that's us as a group. That's us as a humanity. And that's exactly the power that the usurpers, let's use that word, the usurpers want to take our eyes off. We have that collective strength that is greater than anything. Nothing is greater than that, because it's all representative of a single creation. Would you agree with that, G.D.?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where we are, and I feel this eerie anticipation. If I don't know what else to say, it's an anticipation of something that's just right over the horizon. But it's going to be the determining event or set of events that decides what direction in which we go. And it's crazy. I mean, it's right in your face, and more so all the time. It's right in your face. These things are pushing out crazy stuff, and I intentionally, make a lot of comments in different local periodicals and news channels and things like that. And it's absolutely stunning that these creatures will attempt to challenge you on something that is, there's no question. There's not a question there, but they'll challenge it nonetheless until you put them down. And once you do that, they disappear. And isn't that so right, Gigi Spoo, that when confronted with truth, and I mean truth in a pure form, there is no response to that, is there?
No, none. None.
And it's really not that hard. It's not that hard to do. And it takes a little bit of reading and background and help from your friends. Hal's been instrumental in all this with respect to the Charlottesville and other things. And there's one article I want, if you don't mind, Gigi's Boo, this is relevant before we get off into...
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
Some other things. Here's... Hal helped me, and so far, I'm not saying it's not going to, but so far, it hasn't got any traction, but he helped me formulate an ordinance that protects people from GMO contamination. In other words, it helps people from the drift from one spot to another. For example, if you wanted to have an organic farm, this ordinance would protect your farm from the drift from GMO crops. But realistically, isn't that a valid defense of your own property? Especially when Monsanto will claim to be able to sue that very same organic farmer for having the audacity to inadvertently have seed or GMO contamination in his own seed base. And he never meant to. But doesn't it make sense that there should be a remedy for that? And that remedy would be protecting yourself against it by having an ordinance that prohibited it and gave some remedy for that. Anyway, he helped me with that. But that was just kind of a preface here. In Fern's AG Insider, 29 states make it illegal for counties and cities to pass seed laws. Without much notice, 24 state legislatures passed seed preemption laws. They're designed to block counties and cities from adopting their own rules on the use of seeds, including bans on GMOs. Seed preemption laws are part of a spate of legislative initiatives by industrial agriculture, including ag-gag laws passed in several states that legally prohibit outsiders from photographing farms, and right-to-farm laws that make it easier to snuff out complaints about animal welfare. The seed law, critics say, are a related thrust meant to protect the interest of agrochemical companies. I don't want to go any further than that. But you see, we were talking about the creatures, okay? This is how it works. What is, I think it's an organization called ALEC, I believe it is, that comes up with all these prospective pieces of legislation that are presented to the legislators of whom have received contributions, let's put it that way. And it's just an ugly machine that pushes through these agenda. And if you like, I also have a PDF file that's beyondpesticides.org that goes into great detail about this topic and talks about the preemptions and the exclusive authorities and explicit right to petition and so forth and so on. We're all surrounding these seed bans, or the whatever you want to call it, these seed laws. All this and how, and it goes back to what Hal was talking about. These usurpations don't occur all in one big piece. They're little bitty pieces that are thrown over here and over there and somewhere else. And trust me, there's someone on the other side that understands exactly how to pull all this together. But you see, if you're not watching, these things just slip right by. And here's one, here's one that could possibly, and I think it's a little bit different as far as protecting property owner from seed drift, but one could argue that this would create a roadblock to that piece of legislation that we worked on. And there's the article on that. And also, here is the PDF for you guys. If you're not in the chat room, hello, operator. If you're not in the chat room, you're missing out on all this stuff. But, later on, you can pick it up in the archive. Maybe if you go to the blogcaster at reallibertymedia.com. Hello. Okay, that's enough on that. We promised a little bit of focus on something good. I'm going to let Gigi's Boot pick this up now. I think she has a lot of good stuff to share, and I think it's we're getting close to the time where that's going to be more important than worrying about what we didn't worry about before. Anyway, Gigi's Boo, you want to take it?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How about it now, Gary? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. I keep muting because I type and we're having to edit that out. We were talking last week and laughing a little bit about South Carolina. I'm not afraid to start anything, so I thought I would give y'all a little quick history on South Carolina. We're one of the original 13 colonies. I'm sure all you people in here know that, but you would be surprised the people in the world that don't know it. We're known for many things. We have a very rich culture and pride and Southern heritage. And what I mean by that is y'all come back to see us now. The wine of the South is sweet tea with lemon, and it's not unusual to see people sitting on their yard or on their porches and neighbors gathering around having a little sip of tea, iced tea on a sunny, hot summer day. It's done all the time. Where our license plate says South Carolina, beautiful places, smiling faces. And we do have beautiful places here. We have a rich diversity. We have the Appalachian Mountains, which come down into the upper part of our state. And then we have what they call the foothills. Then we have the central part, Piedmont. And then you have the sand part, the Palmetto Sound part. Our state tree is the palmetto. We like slow moving waters. We don't like fast talking people. Funny thing about it is we tell people all the time, we might talk a little slow, we might talk a little funny, but you don't never see nobody from South Carolina to going up north to retire. For that part, anybody in the South, they don't go up north to retire. We have a lot of famous people that were here years ago, but we have some people now who we're very proud of. Nikki Haley was our governor, and she was recently appointed by President Trump to be the ambassador of the United States to the United Nations. We have a new governor, Henry McMaster. He's a very nice man. We have Tim Scott, who's one of the finest senators that I've ever met in my life, and I met him. By the way, he is a black gentleman. We also have a great pride in one of our South Carolinians who is really a go-getter, Trey Gowdy. He's in the House. Trey Gowdy was a former solicitor, and then he was appointed as a federal prosecutor. And when all this happened with the investigations up in North Carolina, in Washington, everybody kept saying, somebody will knock Trey Gowdy off. He better be afraid. And I laughed and I said, you don't know Bulldog. I've seen him in action. And we have a federal courthouse in Greenville, South Carolina. And I saw him in action, and I saw him go in to prosecute a drug cartel that was in this part of the country. And he went into the courtroom surrounded by a SWAT team. He doesn't he doesn't scare, and he sure hell don't run. And I'm very proud of him for being in Washington, giving these people hell. He gives them hell left and right. He doesn't care. The only disgrace we've got in South Carolina in my book is Lindsey Graham, who ought to have been gone a long time ago. Have no use for him. He stays up John McCain's butt all the time. I have no use for John McCain. I'm sorry if any of y'all like him, but we call him the songbird of the Hanoi Hilton. That's our only disgrace, I think. We have a great diversity of religions. We have also 2 colleges, great colleges in the state, 2 major colleges. We have the University of South Carolina, That's the home of the Fighting Gamecocks. And we also have Clemson University, who was the top rated college football team of last year. And they're the home of the Tigers. Now, when they play, it's usually the Saturday after Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving. And you even have houses that are divided here when it comes to the ball game. When that ball game's on, the whole state comes to a standstill and they watch it. We like NASCAR. We had one of a NASCAR race here in Darlington. It used to be the Coca-Cola 500, no, the Firecracker 500. I think it's Coca-Cola 500 now. We also have, where I'm from, a football team that was rated, you can look it up, it was rated, I think, what was it, Gary, last year? Or year before last? It was rated 9th in the nation.
Yeah, I believe it was.
And when you go to a football game in my hometown, which is Gaffney, South Carolina, it's in the foothills of the Appalachians. We had a news reporter here. Well, she wrote for the Ledger. She was from up around Pittsburgh, and she had never been to one of our ball games. And she said, when I got into that stadium, I saw a crowd larger than what the Pittsburgh Steelers had. No, we love football here, and I mean, we're loud, we play ball, we're friends with everybody, but this town is known for the Fighting Indians. We're really good. In fact, we won the other night 30-0 to a local team that we're rivals with. We have mountains to beaches. We have museums. We have also some famous people. John C. Calhoun was from here. Another thing, let me say, is most of our elected officials that we elect here, that's in our district, in our state or local district, they make themselves available to you. And what I mean by that is you can walk up to them and shake their hand and they'll stand there and talk to you. And they're right there working for the people of South Carolina. Now, what gives the South such a bad name is these stupid shows like Jerry Springer, Maury Povich, or whatever his name is, where they bring them in, they fight and they cuss, and that hillbilly grandma that was on TV not too long ago that cussed all the time. You don't find that. You don't find that here. Of course, in every area you go in, you're going to have your trashy people to your upper class. But I like to think that South Carolina is right on up there with the upper class. We also had Thomas Sumter, John Rutledge, Andrew Pickens, and probably one of the most famous ones that was ever here was Francis Marion. And those of you that don't know about him, I'll fill you in a little bit of history. Francis Marion was very, very important during the Revolutionary War. They called him the Swamp Fox. And he lived down in the coastal area of South Carolina. In fact, one of the counties is named after him, where his home place was. If any of y'all watched the movie The Patriot,
yeah, so say that if you saw The Patriot, you saw that story.
You saw Swamp Fox. That's exactly right. He knew his way around the swamp. He took his men in. The British couldn't find them. He was so good that he was able to take the British officers' dogs away from him. And he stayed with the Swamp Fox, and when the war was about over, he gave the dogs back to him. His home's beautiful. We've toured the home down there, and he's a very, 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 very well-known man here. We just elected Ralph Norman. He was filling a seat for, I can't remember who it was, but he's very nice. Mick Mulvaney, met him in person. He's one of the ones that's on one of Trump's council. He's up there. He's super guy. Has been to church with us. Just everyday people. I know y'all remember Mark Sanford. He was our governor, and he was really a great governor. And he had a fling with a woman in, I believe it was in Argentina. And he was missing, and somebody was looking for him. We think that the news media had a little hand in telling, had some help finding him. But everybody kept saying he's walking the Appalachian Trail. But his wife caught up with him, and so he had to resign as governor. That's when Haley was elected. But he is also now back in politics down on the coast where he's from, but he's on the state level, not the national level. We have Myrtle Beach, which is well known all over the United States, but has just recently, I saw some outputs of where it said that it was really rated as a really big crime spot. Well, let me tell you about Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach was the place to go back when I was young and my mother was young. And they had a pavilion, and our state dance is the shag. And if you want to look that up, look for Carolina shagging. Now I know shag to the Brits means something totally different, but to the South Carolinians and North Carolina and even Virginia Beach, it's a form of a dance that's slower than the jitterbug and slower than the swing. If you'll look, just type it in YouTube and you'll see shagging. That's what you did. You went to Myrtle Beach, and the pavilion stayed open 24/7. And they usually had bands. Alabama got their start there, if you know who they are, the country group Alabama. They played at the Bowery, and of all the hurricanes and everything that's hit the coast of South Carolina, the Bowery has never been destroyed. It's always left standing. When you go into the Bowery, you have to write your name on the wall somewhere. That's just tradition. And every once in a while, they'll paint over it, but they keep the names that are very famous, famous people. But the Bowery's down there, and that's another great place to shag. And you could go down there and you could dance 24/7, get some great food. Parents didn't have to worry about their kids too much because it was just a nice place. Now the crime rate's gone up tremendously. The people are going to the stores, just like they're destroying the Confederacies memorabilia. Now they're going down there and they're just walking in stores, tearing it up, taking what they want. In fact, less than 4 weeks ago, they had a big shooting down there, and somebody caught it on a cell phone and posted it, and it was all over the internet where these people were shot. You have a lot of Southern hospitality. We're known for good cooking, especially grits in the South, shrimp and grits. Lots of good things to do. Have a beautiful place down in Merle Inlet called Brookview Gardens, and it's nothing but statues and art out in the open, and it's gorgeous. We've seen some destruction. We've seen some heartache. Pretty bad stuff, but we always seem to come out on top. And I tell everybody ought to visit South Carolina one time. Now, South Carolina is also famous for any Marine that joins the United States Marine Corps. This side of the Mississippi, you go to Parris Island, which is down right off the coast of South Carolina. So most of the Marines that come here, all they can remember is Parris Island, and there's more to the state than the Marine Corps headquarters. And they turn out some great Marines down here, and it's a great place. We also are home for a lot of festivals, and my hometown is home for the South Carolina Peach Festival. And we have a lot of name groups that come in and sing. And we've been known to make the first year we had it, we made the largest peach pie. And we had Jerry Clowers He's a comedian. He was here that year. And at our particular time, a minister that we know had been his roommate at Ole Miss when they both went down there. And so we kind of got in on meeting him firsthand, too. Another thing is The Abyss was filmed in South Carolina. Of course, Hollywood had a whole different story to say about us, that we were a cultural wasteland. We're far from that. We're very, we're an educated people. And like I said, most everybody you meet are going to be very friendly. You don't see a lot of hostility down here. It's all real laid back, slow moving, easy going. Let's see what else. We had a terrible tragedy happen in Charleston some time back, where a young man went into a prayer meeting in Charleston and killed some people. I'm sure if y'all listen to the news, you saw that. And this young man was a white man, and he killed some very genteel, wonderful black people that lived here. Senseless killing, and he had bragged that he wanted to take out some black people. He was going to do that. That's what he was going to do. Kill the pastor. These people, when he walked in the door, they said that they invited him in and told him to come in and worship with him. And he was invited in to break bread and to worship with them. And he opened fire and he killed them. On his arraignment, the families were there. And instead of screaming and yelling like you see on TV at these rallies, the families of the victims very calmly and very graciously said, "We don't know why you did it, but we forgive you." That took grace, my friends. That took great grace and much poise. We had another situation. I'm going to let Gary tell you about that before I close on what I have to say. Another situation that impressed him just in the last week. Gary, take that over.
Yeah, there was a disgruntled employee walked into a restaurant on King Street, I believe it is, and killed someone. Not sure whether it was an owner, manager, or whatever. And the city the city police immediately responded, and they cleared all the adjacent businesses. And as there had been a shooting had occurred, so the SWAT team went in and ended up shooting the perpetrator. And that's the guts of the event. But the real story, in my view, was, and I watched this as it occurred, as the local coverage was going on, and there were interviews. One with the mayor of Charleston, and it was just. It's hard. This is hard to describe. It was an atmosphere, a very somber atmosphere, and the sheriff actually he made a few remarks, and he was on the verge of crying. It's just, I don't know. It's a feeling, the quietness of the street and the areas and everyone, and even the local reporters. Very somber. No agenda here. No, not trying to make something out of nothing. But it was a tragedy, and that was precisely the sense that you got from everyone. That it's almost like something happened in the family. Does that make any sense, Judy?
Yeah, and a reverence. There was a reverence about it all, too. Very reverent atmosphere, I thought.
Yeah. It was such a different experience from what, we had been seeing up until then, with all the events all over the place in Charlottesville and blah, 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 and other places, where there's hate and discontent. But this was a whole different atmosphere. And that's when, I knew there still are real places for real people.
That's exactly right. As I told Gary, they were rocking the place with style and grace.
Yeah.
That's a word I use a lot to describe us down here.
Yeah.
That's the way we do.
I think that's very, very appropriate.
We,
Go ahead.
Let me say this, though. Because we're a genteel people, and I like to use that, the Klan is not wanted here. I wanted to bring in that when this happened in Charleston the first time, where the boy went in and shot the black people, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton called and told them that they wanted to come down. And Charleston told them to keep their tails where they belonged, that they didn't need them in South Carolina, that we could do what we needed to do. And I said that took a lot of grace right there too. That we don't want protesting. We don't want things turned over. We don't want anything bad. We want to live very peacefully and very genteel. Now, let me say something else too. I don't care to tell you that South Carolina was the one that started the Confederate War. We shot the first fire. We fired the first shot. We're not afraid to fight. We're not afraid to take up no trouble. We're not afraid to finish anything we start. You won't find any pushovers in the state of South Carolina. It takes a lot to make us mad. Well, let me tell you something, honey. Don't start nothing, and there won't be nothing. Because if you do start something, and there is something, we can finish it. And we will. I'm gonna wind this up about 5 minutes early with something that was written that I wanted to read to you back when we had that terrible flooding here, which was last year. And this is what it says. South Carolina is without a doubt home to some of the quirkiest people in the country on all levels. But that being said, here's my observation. After Hugo, South Carolina didn't wail and holler and scream, me first, me first. They helped their neighbor. Neighbor in this case was anyone in need. An ice storm closed the state last year, and again the folks hunkered down and took care of each other. Then in June of that last year, another kind of tragedy struck in South Carolina. Rioting didn't occur, just prayer vigils. Then the families of the victims forgave the slayer. And now, the 1,000-year flood. Again, folks are taking care of each other. So, okay, we're quirky. We have a variety of political and religious philosophies. But at least we remember who our neighbor is. And that we do. We do know who our neighbors are. So I'm going to tell you, if you're ever coming this way, come on down to see us. I'm going to have to stop this right now. And I'm going to say, it was a pleasure to be with y'all tonight. Remember to always take the road less traveled. And remember, Gigi loves you big to her heart. Okay, Gary.
Yeah. And I think, and we waxed on eloquently about South Carolina. But the takeaway here is, if you listened, the takeaway here is there's nothing preventing everyone from creating such an environment. Nothing at all. Don't you agree, Gigi's book?
Yes, I agree.
Anyway, thanks for sticking with us, and thank you for listening tonight. to Gary L. and GT's Boo on the Road Less Traveled, and make sure you go to reallibertymedia.com and check out all the good stuff. So we'll catch up with you later. Take care. Good night.